Welcome back to More Than the Beard. Today we have Corey. It's going to be a great episode. I'm really excited for you guys to get into it. Right. All right, Corey. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. So go ahead and the floor is yours. Tell me your story.
Well, not a whole lot to honestly tell. 30, just turned 30, back in June.
Happy
I
birthday.
have, yeah, so I have a 3-year-old with my wife now. We live in North Carolina.
Okay.
And then I have a son that just turned 9, and he lives back in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
So from a previous marriage, really adjusting to life since COVID, honestly. I feel like everyone talks about it, but I work in a call center, and I went from being around 200, 300 people all talking on the phone at the same time every day to sitting in an office. So it's been an adjustment. It's kind of like, what do I do? But I think I like it a little bit more. My son, he's back in school now, at daycare. We call it school, but you know, it's nice. I mean, you can break away from your meeting, and I can just put it on my phone, and I can go and take him to school and take him to soccer practice. So it's kind of helped me get a more work-life balance, I'd say.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Definitely a little different going from like the atmosphere and hearing everybody to you close that door and it's just you.
Yeah, no, it was insane. Especially when you're on the phone. I started out on the phones and then worked my way up to running like a whole line of business.
Nice.
Um, and so it's weird because when you're on the phone, you don't hear it. You have the noise canceling things on. But I remember when we went to COVID, it was crazy. It was like you're in this box, and like the way the call center was set up is like, because I ran it, I was in the middle of everyone. So everyone walked by my desk, and to go from that into the next day, that night I get a call, and my boss is like, "We're going virtual," and I'm like, "Why are we going virtual?" And they're like, because of COVID. I'm like, "Yeah, I heard about that on the news. Like, what are they talking about? Like, what is this?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, we're going virtual." And I was like, "Okay." So I came in the next day, and it was pure chaos. I mean, people, it looked like Black Friday on at Best Buy. People
Oh my
grabbing
gosh.
equipment, signing out equipment. They're like, it's mass chaos because no one knew what was going on. Everyone was just like, "We're going virtual," and so then I remember like 2 or 3 days later, I'm sitting at my old desk because the manager still had to work on site, and there's maybe like 5 people around me, and I'm like, "This is weird." Like,
Oh wow.
yeah.
That's crazy. How much longer were you like on site until they sent you home?
So 23 COVID tests, and didn't go home until February of this year.
Oh
So I
wow.
was on site, yeah, until February of this year. And then they finally shut it down and were like, okay, like, are the managers, we're going to move everything, permanently work at home. They kept the managers there because they thought that we were eventually going to go back. But after the first year, they were like, we're making more money having you guys work at home. So they're like, y'all go have a good time. See you later.
Wow. I feel like the transition of that, like from everyone in the office to like almost no one in the office would be like the almost a bigger transition.
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially learning, at the time, like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, all of that, like it was
Mm-hmm.
foreign language to me. I mean, if you had to get on a client call at the time, you would go on to Zoom, but you used it maybe once, twice, because clients
Mm-hmm.
would come and see you, and most of your meetings would be huddled into an office on a
Yeah.
phone, and everyone's on speakerphone. So learning that was weird, and then trying to figure out how do you motivate your people. I can't go and give you like a high five. It's like, now I'm like calling you, and it's weird.
That's gotta be rough. Yeah, you can't like walk the roads, you can't start like doing all the fun stuff like the random ones, like just in office. It's all like
It was
typing and all. Oh man, that's gotta be rough.
it was crazy. And then the even crazier part was, I was in North Carolina at the time, and they moved my project down back to Augusta, Georgia. So North Carolina at the time was completely shut down. Right when COVID happened, we were 100% shut down, and you couldn't go anywhere. You could only get like grocery delivery, basically. I mean, even the stores were empty. So when I
Mm-hmm.
moved back down to Georgia during the middle of the pandemic, Georgia was wide open. They were like, "Oh yeah, who cares about COVID? Just wear a mask, whatever." So it's like it was crazy because I was like, "Wow, the mall's open. Wow, I can go like here, I can go there." Like, it was like the most surreal experience that I've ever been through.
That's insane. 23 COVID tests though, so it sounds like everyone's good at this point. Like it sounds like you've established some sort of new normal, even though that's the worst term in the lexicon.
Knock
Oh,
on wood, I have never tested positive for COVID. Not
that's awesome.
wood that I can knock on, because I've had some people close to me get it, and it's a scary thing, and it's a very uncertain time. It's like, do I get the vaccine? Do I not get the vaccine? Do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? I'm one of those people, I literally can scroll through and I'll find 4 articles and be like, I'm going to go get the vaccine. And then I'll keep scrolling and I'll find 4 more articles where I'm like, I'm not going to go get the vaccine. This is crazy. And so it's just like you feel like you're in this medium. So I feel very lucky and blessed that I haven't had it, but I've been quarantined. Because of it, I was away from my family for 9 months. My wife and my 3-year-old son, couldn't see them for 9 months. We tried a couple times, and almost every time someone I was around contracted COVID, and I was on quarantine. And at the time, they didn't know, like, how long do you wait to go get tested?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was going to get tested. So it was like a week wait to go and get COVID tested. So I'm sitting at home in a room by myself, texting my wife, who's like at a hotel because she's already planned to come down here and she can't even see me. So it was awful.
That's rough. That sounds terrible. But it sounds like you guys are back together now. It's kind of new routine, which is great. That's awesome. What so I gotta ask though, so pink hair and tattoos. So that's awesome. What's the story behind that?
So growing up, I went to a private school my whole life, actually. So my parents had me in a private school, and I just always felt kind of like out of place, kind of like this doesn't really fit my personality, like the suits, the ties, the going and doing all of that stuff, and so I guess once I got older, I got my first tattoo, and I just went a little crazy with it, honestly, and it's just now I just kind of do my own thing. I like to be different. My hair's pink this week. Last week it was green. The week before that it was purple. So it just really all just depends. But now that I'm older, I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable with who I am. And you go through that period. I think everyone does, right? Where you're trying to figure out who you are. And now that I am, I just enjoy kind of just being that oddball in the group that colors outside of the lines, and just kind of does my own thing. So I guess it's just where I'm at. It's just pink hair for right now. We'll see what color it is tomorrow.
That's that's awesome. Hey, every friend group needs to have one of those. How many tattoos do you have?
Ooh, that's a tough question to answer because let's see. I have behind my ear. I have my lip tattooed. My chest is done. I got my whole arm. I got some on this arm too, just a little bit. All my knuckles, the bottom and the tops are done.
Okay, so at this point, it's what areas are not tattooed is kind of the question. Is okay, all right. I got a friend like
it's
that.
It's a lot easier to go over that. So yeah.
It's the every time you see him, it's like, okay, well, I got a new tattoo. It's like it's here, it's there, it's there. It's like I'm like, bro, what? Are you just living your tattoo guy? Like, what's going on? So,
well, what's funny is I come from a very conservative family, and so I swear my mom, even at 30 years old, she has a heart attack every time she calls me, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, what was it, a month ago?" I was like, "I'm getting my knee tattooed." She was like, "You're getting your knee tattooed?" I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Corey, what am I gonna do with you?" And I'm like, nothing. I live on my own and pay my own bills, have my own family. I'm just living my life. And she's all stressed out, and I think she's cried a couple times over it. It's just really a traumatic event for her.
Oh my gosh, Ma, I got 2 kids. I think we're done. I think we're even though it's not fun to be the adult in the room, I think I can handle being the adult in the room.
Yeah. Love her to death, but she's just very old school, very, very old school, very traditional, and just she grew up in a time where that wasn't common,
Yeah.
I did get her to branch out, and she did go and get a tattoo with me, and
Ooh,
that was
okay.
that took a lot of years of persuading, but she finally did it, and she just told me the whole time, I don't understand what the big deal about it is it's just a tattoo, and but she tried it, so I got to give it to her. She has her values and opinions, and it stresses her out what mine are, but hey, we're good because of it.
It's, you can pick your nose, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your friend's nose, right? So when it comes to family, right? It's
Yeah.
they're there, love them either way. That's awesome. Hey, at least you got yours to get one though. Like that's definitely. And I feel like
Yeah.
when it comes to tattoos, it's kind of you have like one or two, or you have like yourself. Like it's just the body parts, or where it's at, or the plan to start getting the body parts taken care of.
Yeah, I will say on my 18th birthday, I rushed out and went and got a tattoo. And I would say within the first 6 months, I was already starting on like my arm sleeve, and it just like I don't know what it is. It just took off. Once I got one, I was like, I want another one, I want another one, I want another one, and here we are.
It's kind of how it usually works, right? It's either you're addicted to it, or it's like, all right, I did it and it checked it off the list. That's awesome.
Exactly.
What's your favorite tattoo?
My favorite tattoo would have to be I'm working on my leg sleeve, and my
Okay.
dad was on the fire department for 30 years and just retired about 2 years ago. So I'm doing a whole fireman's leg sleeve. So like I don't know if you've ever seen like the fireman's Maltese cross. If you haven't, you should
Probably.
Google it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. For sure.
it's like common. It has like a really cool like meaning and stuff. So that's on my knee, and then I got like a firefighter going out of like a burning building on the back of my leg. So it's all like for him. It's all it has like the year he went on the fire department. Um, right now, the guy that's actually going to be doing my shin, we found an old blueprint of the very first firehouse my dad worked in, and he's actually going to recreate it and tattoo it on me. So super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That that's one of the best tattoo stories I've ever heard.
Love it. I've wanted to do it for so long, and I finally just said, you know what, let's do it. And the guy that does my tattoos, he's a super cool guy, and he even tattooed me during COVID. He was like, I don't care. He's like, I know you. You're good.
You didn't have tests for it, right? Like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I think it's gonna look out. That thing's probably gonna come out great. Then I mean, that's the meaning behind that is that's awesome. What was your most painful like tattoo spot?
Whew, hands down, my chest.
Okay.
My whole Yeah, baby. My whole chest, sorry.
You're fine.
My whole chest, it goes from like right all the way up, like almost to my throat and down, and then underneath my armpits. And
Oh,
I went through this period where I was like a young kid and you couldn't tell me anything. So like I wanted to go and like I did my whole outline of my arm from my hand to my shoulder in one sitting. I did my chest in one sitting. And to me, the chest
oh,
like stuck out. Like he did the colors, the shading, all of it. And I just remember I stepped out into the sun and it was just like my skin was so raw that like it was like burning, like even through my shirt. I couldn't sleep right for a couple days. I
ugh,
actually ended up getting the flu because of it. Like I was like throwing up and like my body was like shaking. It was a horrible experience.
that's insane.
Yeah.
That is. Well, I mean, that's definitely a story for it. That's for sure.
Yeah. A little battle scars, but yeah, I will say I will definitely break up my tattoos. Will not sit through one like that again.
How long was that? How long was that sitting?
7.5 hours.
Oh my gosh, that is
Long, grueling hours.
that's insane. That's awesome. What made you like get your first tattoo? Just to go like rebel against it a little bit.
I think it kind of goes back to just growing up in like the private school
Mm-hmm.
world. Like when you're in private school, like your life is, and there's nothing against it. I think it was a great education and stuff, but I think like your life is just in such a tunnel. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
blinders on. Like for me, I remember when I got into high school and I started getting friends that were outside of private school. I had priests teaching me, and I had church every Friday.
Mm.
And you had to wear a certain suit and tie, and um, so like you would think about stuff like that was normal, and then you talk to your friends and like, you go to church on every Friday, like for like 3 hours at school, and I'm like, yeah, like we have a chapel right outside of the cafeteria, so after lunch if you want to go sit in there and pray and light a candle and do all that, you can. And they'd be looking at me like I was crazy, but to me it was like normal. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, as I got older, I just realized like, I think you accept it for a while because that's your life. School every week, church every Friday, and then my parents would take me to church on Sunday, and we spent all day at church on Sundays, and but I always felt kind of like I was almost out of place a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
not to get like super like, not that I didn't believe in anything or anything, not to get like religious or anything, but just kind of like I felt like a little bit different. I would say even down to from the way that I liked to dress to the
Mm-hmm.
way like the kind of people that I was attracted to in my life, the kind of girls that I would think was attractive, or I would even like I struggled with it for the longest time. I would come and I would see like I would be like, why do I think this guy looks good? I'm
Mm-hmm.
like a straight guy, but like why am I looking at the same sex? So I kind of went through some struggles and kind of came out on the other side. And when I turned 18, I just told myself that I wasn't going to live my life for anyone but me. And I'm just going to do what makes me happy and what gives me peace. And I just went and I got a tattoo to symbolize that. And just all downhill from there, I guess.
Sounds about right. Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. I mean, finding yourself that young is something that, it's hard for 50, 60 year olds to do. They've done what they're supposed to do. And then it's like, what do I do now? So that's awesome that you're living your life that way.
Yeah, it was a struggle. I mean, even at 18, I think I thought I had it figured out, but even
Mm-hmm.
at 30, like I feel like I'm finally in a place where it's like I'm comfortable with it. But it was hard. You deal with people that look at you differently. I think I was even now. So all the people I went to high school with and graduated with, I was in class with them from the time we were in kindergarten, and from kindergarten all the way
Oh
through
my
your senior
gosh.
year, you knew those same people. You didn't have anybody else. Our graduating class was 25 people, and I knew all 25 of those people.
Oh
Like
my
that's
gosh.
it. Their families knew us. Like four of the kids in my class that were really good friends of mine growing up, my dad went to high school and elementary school and middle school with their dad,
Oh my
so it's
gosh.
like all just like this like big like tight knit circle. So it was hard kind of breaking out of that because I remember when I told my friend, I was like, bro, I think like I might be like, I found the word like bisexual, and I was like, I think I might, and he was like, no, no, there's no way. And like, you're crazy, like how dare you? And I mean, I think like I got to a point, I remember even being like 22, 23. That's actually one of the reasons why my first marriage ended, was because she just wasn't okay with that. It wasn't like I was cheating, it wasn't like I was doing anything, but for
Mm-hmm.
her it was like that was just not her version of a man, almost,
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of destroys you a little bit and kind of ruins your self-confidence, and it took a lot to kind of patch that back together.
It sounds like you really went on like a self, like soul searching kind of situation then with that, with everything. What would be like your biggest piece of advice for someone that's kind of like there, kind of like at this weird crossroads of like, I don't know who I am or what to do. What was the biggest thing that helped you?
I think for me, it was just remembering the kind of people that I'm around. It's the same thing me and my wife were actually talking a couple weeks ago, about like what would happen if, like, let's say for instance, my son was gay, like,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone always asks like, oh, what would you do? Like, and because my dad was like, oh my God, like I would never. And he actually stopped talking to me for a couple of years. We're good now. But so, and I told her, I was like, I would share with him just like I would share with anybody, like you're gonna have those moments where it feels like the whole world is against you, but to just be patient and just understand that like that it doesn't make you less of a person, doesn't make you less of a man, doesn't make you less of a of anything, and just to really, it's easy to latch yourself onto people that are not very good for you and for your mental health and for your physical health too. And so just to really surround yourself with a very small group of people that you can talk to, because you're going to need a lot of people to lean on, because it's very confusing, it's very hard, it's very nerve wracking, and you kind of go through a whole lot. You lose family members, you lose all kinds of stuff. And I think that just I would tell them just that if this is what you really want, like I'm here. I tell everybody. I always post in the Live Bearded Brotherhood that you guys need to talk. Let's talk, man. Like let's do it, because I think it's important to break out of that stigma. And that's kind of how we're raising my son too. Like, talk to us about like how you feel and what's going on. And it's not the norm, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I have people look at you like he's 3, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, and I'll still discipline him, and he's not going to run the house. But like, I want him to know that it's okay for a male to break out of that stigma and to talk about how they feel. And I think that would be the biggest piece of advice, is because I grew up in that very like masculine environment where my dad would say, why are you crying? We don't cry. Like, don't cry. We don't do that. That's men don't cry. Or even down to, I remember one time we were at the beach walking, and there was a guy walking towards me, and I got off the sidewalk so he could walk. And I remember my dad flipped out. He was like, how dare you do that? You don't do that. That like makes you bow to a man. Like, you don't do that. You make sure that they say excuse me. Like, he was very like macho, like very like alpha male. So I grew up, and like I remember, when I met my first wife, she was like, would you ever like cry or whatever? I was like, nope, I don't cry. Like, I don't talk about my feelings. Like, I don't say anything. Like, I just kind of like stuff it all down, because that's what men do. But I think it would have been a lot easier, and the journey would have been a lot more smoother if I had that kind of soft place to land. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think, and I think this was a tiny bit before, but like with COVID, with everyone being alone, isolated for 9 months, I mean, texting your family, calling them like you can't see them, like that's a huge mental health thing. And I think that is like one of the, I mean, tons of things are terrible because of it. And I'm not trying to get political on it, but like the one thing that came out, I think, is a lot of people's mental health of like, it's okay for guys to both be like dudes and to be able to like talk about their feelings and to be able to express them, and having like a really good like mental health conversation. So raising your kid that way, I mean, it's going to be, there's and it's you're taught what you're taught, and it's a lot different. Obviously, grandfathers, fathers just taught two totally different things than we are teaching our kids nowadays. So that's all you can do. And I mean, yeah, it's just, you love them like you can, right? Like, and so you go through that.
Yeah, no, I mean, me and my dad, we've come a long way. I love him to death, but it was definitely a rough journey. I mean, I think we both taught each other a lot. He's definitely someone, like, I laugh at him all the time, because he's now just like this big softy with my son. Like, he like loves him, like whatever he wants. Like, that kid runs his grandfather, and I'm like, you were never like that with me. Never. Like, he fell down the other day. They were visiting, and he fell down the other day. And my dad like scoops him up, and he's like, "Bubba, are you okay?" Like, all right. And he's like loving on him, and my son's like crying and like holding him. And I'm like, "You would have told me to go rub some dirt in there and to move on." Like, but here he is. You're just letting him live his life. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what do you do for free time other than getting tattoos? Because I know that takes a lot of time. Are you like a reader? Are you a book guy? Are you like a TV guy, a movie guy?
So I feel like I have like no, and we kind of touched on it. Like, I feel like, it's kind of hard to find like a hobby right now, because like I work at home. So I work at home, and then in the middle of my work day, I have to go get my son, and then he's home. And then when he's home, it's, snack, play, dinner, bath, bed. And so by the time it's like bedtime, it's like 9 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm going to sleep. Like, I gotta get up to work and go. But for me, I'm really someone, like, I enjoy like TV shows. I enjoy books. I like to listen to podcasts. I'm someone that can get lost on YouTube for like hours. Like, I'll start out watching like one music video, and I'm like, oh, I love this music video. And then it'll be like suggestions for you. And next thing I know, it's like 3 hours later, and I'm like, oh, I like this one, this one, this one, this one. So like, but I love like when we can finally go back to normal, going to concerts and watching some live bands and stuff. So
What's your genre that you listen to?
I can listen to everything,
Okay.
country, everything. But I would say the most shows that I've been to are like hard rock metal shows. Um, yeah, that was probably like I've been to more of those than any show, and they're probably a lot more fun. So
Okay. And do you get down in the pit and do the dancing where you're flailing the arms and stuff like that? Okay. All right.
yes, I've had my nose broken, my collarbone broken, like I've had it all. Like I've been kicked in the face.
It seems so interesting. And so I'm a redhead. I get feisty. So if someone does that, I'll be like, I feel like you did that on purpose. So I'm gonna come find you. So it's
The interesting part is that like when you're down there and you're doing like you don't even like it sounds like really brutal. And I remember when I went to my first show, I'm like, bro, you're talking about you got your nose broke and like your eye broke or whatever, the orbital bone. And I'm like, I'm not going down there. But it's like in the moment, it's just like you're just like having a good time and you're just like, pushing people and just kind of like I don't know, like you're just like kind of charged up. And like when I broke my nose, I didn't even know it. Like I didn't even know like my nose was bleeding. Like we were at work tour when that was still a thing. And I got out of the pit and we were going to the next show. And my buddy was like, damn, dude, like your nose is bleeding like bad. And I like looked at it on the camera phone and I was like, wow. And it was like sideways and stuff. And like it was like but you didn't even notice it. And then, of course, it started hurting afterwards. And I'm like, thanks, dude. Like, I appreciate you bringing my attention to that. So now it's going to hurt the rest of the time we're out here. But, in the moment, you don't even really think about it. I don't even remember getting hit in the face.
Yeah. I see some of that stuff and I'm like, that just looks so. I've been to one of those shows and I was like stayed far away from that because I'm like, that's just not gonna end well. That stuff's insane. That's awesome though. And that's such a like it's such passion for that, I feel like is really where it's at. That's crazy. How long have you been growing your beard out?
For sure. What's up?
How long have you been growing your beard out?
So actually, I have been with my wife for 7 years. And well, like on and off for 7 years. Married will be 5, but she's never seen me clean shaven. And then 2 months ago, I actually noticed that like my face was like super scratchy. So I like went to the doctor, and I guess like I had like an ingrown hair, but the infection like it got infected, and I didn't know about it because my beard was so long. So it spread, and I had like all these like bumps all over my face and stuff. So in order to like get it better and put cream on it, I actually had to shave 2 months ago. So now I'm back in. It was horrible. It's horrible. So
how long was your beard?
I would say probably like down to close to like about like what yours is.
Okay. All right.
Like,
pretty decent size.
Yeah. Not bad. I used to try to keep it trim. I'd go through phases where I liked it a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, but definitely had not seen a clean shaven face probably after I got out of high school. Because in high school, like you had to have like your dress code was very strict. It was private school again. Like your hair on your head couldn't touch the collar of your shirt. Like so, like it had to be like trimmed. You couldn't have facial hair, like none of that. So couldn't have earrings, nothing.
That's insane. That's one of those ones. I got a smart mouth, and I know that just doesn't fly for those things. So I definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that is. Did your kid like see you clean shaven?
Yeah, and he did not like it. He actually looked at his mom and said, "Mommy, Daddy is ugly now." And I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate it." Yeah. So my kid has a very smart mouth. I tell everyone all the time, like, if you get your feelings hurt easily, my 3-year-old is probably not someone for you to be around. So, because he's just like, how like some parents say, like, I'm always so worried that my kid's gonna get bullied at school. I'm like, I'm not worried about it, because like my kid, like at 3 years old, like he has, it's insane. He does not care.
So he's just savage going for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. At 3, good for him, man. Good for him. That's awesome.
He's a wild child. He's got his ears pierced. He's got his rat tail. His rat tail is almost down to the center of his back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's just living. He's just living his best life.
That's it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. What is like one piece of parenting advice that you would give?
don't let your kid sleep in the bed with you, even for a night, ever. Because here we are 3 years later, and he still ends up in my bed and or goes to sleep and stays in our bed. Like I don't think he's 3 years old and never slept a night in his bed,
Oh my
like a
gosh.
full night. And yeah, it's I hate it. I love him, but I hate it because I'm like, I just want to do married things with your
Yeah,
mom, and
absolutely.
you're sleeping in my bed, bro. Like, but it's hard because my wife, she's a bartender, so she works opposite schedules. So
Ugh. Ugh.
when she gets home, she likes like her baby's in bed, and I'm like, oh my god. So, but that would be my biggest advice. I don't care how much sleep you lose because that's the trap that we fell in. Like he sleeps so much better if he's sleeping in our bed. Like so, and I have to work 14 hours tomorrow. So just put him in our bed. And then that one day turns into 2 months and 2 months turns into 3 years, and don't do it. Just sacrifice the sleep up front. Sacrifice the sleep up front. I'm telling you guys, don't do it.
Like that's really quality advice that you really stand behind. So that's
Yeah. Don't if you value having a marriage in the late night hours, gentlemen, do not let this.
that's the quality advice right there. Is make sure that if you want more siblings, like if you want to give them siblings, like make sure they're in their own room. So,
Yeah, yeah.
So Corey, what is one like just kind of wrap up here? A couple quick last questions. What's one piece of advice that someone gave you that like stuck with you?
Don't be afraid to fail. And it's actually how I got to this position in my life. I'm 30 years old, supposed to have graduated high school. Actually, didn't graduate high school. Um, so I have my GED. Never been to college, and now I run and manage almost 600 employees. And yeah, so and I talk to executive levels every day, and it just I say that not to like be like boastful, but to just say that like I learned by just falling flat on my face, and every piece of the journey that I was on, I started out on the phones, and I failed miserably, and I was probably the worst call center agent that the world has ever seen, but I learned from those mistakes. I didn't shy away from failing, and then it helped me develop, and now here I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great advice too. That's great advice. What do you want people to remember you by? So if you meet them, your legacy, what do you want it to look like?
I want to be known as someone that anyone can come to about anything because I don't scare easily. I don't shy away from anything. I love hearing about people's what they're dealing with. I love being able to talk to them and fellowship with them. And I also I really want to be remembered as someone that colors outside of the lines. It's not afraid to be bold and to just be myself. I just want people to, at my funeral, I hope my son stands up and is like, my dad was a badass. He did not care what anyone thought. So
That's awesome. That's an awesome legacy to leave for your kids, especially like showing that way. Like you can do anything you set your mind to, kid. Go ahead and go out and try.
yes,
That's awesome. Well,
absolutely.
my friend, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, buddy. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, there you have it. That's Corey. He's him. And that's pretty much how you explain it. I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, listen here at More Than the Beard podcast. We believe that every beard has a story, and I'm trying to tell them all. I appreciate you. I appreciate if you subscribe. I appreciate you leave a review. I appreciate you letting me know. You guys have a great one.